You bring up Georgia. I actually found one of the first photos that Gene Gordon sent to the Wrestling News of Bobby Eaton when he got to Georgia. And the caption that Gene Gordon wrote is, Bobby Eaton, who is from Nashville, Tennessee, a young Matt Ace, who is rapidly gaining recognition in Georgia rings, photo by Gene Gordon, March 1981.
Well, and he wasn't there too much longer. No, you know what? As a matter of fact, that's what it was. Bobby, when Nick folded up, Bobby came over to work for Jarrett for a couple months, went to Georgia for a few months, and then came back to Memphis. That's the way it happened, and teamed up with Coco. Nevertheless, and you know, you asked earlier on how Bobby got so good, right? And because what had happened was, and because, I mean, I asked the same thing. Well, years ago, I asked him, well, how did you get started, and et cetera. But nobody trained him till he started doing jobs on TV. Because, as we said, back in those days, they had wrestling every week at your local arena. In Huntsville, it was the Huntsville Coliseum. And Coliseum is probably an inappropriate word for this building, right? But it sounds good on paper. But kids would hang out at the back door, and as if Pat Malone in Memphis would have 5 or 6 of them go sell programs for me, boy. I'll give you a nickel a piece or whatever. Or somebody need help hauling, setting the ring up with the posts. Hey, I'll let you in free in the bleachers if you carry these ring posts. And then whoever was hauling the ring, this was a classic Buddy Wayne ploy. Whoever was hauling the ring would then sit and point a lot and drink a bottle of pop, while these kids he's going to let in free carried the ring post. Anyway, and Bobby and his friend Orville Hutto started getting in the ring and imitating the shit that they'd seen on television. And it got to the point where some of the boys, when they would if they got there early enough, because they wouldn't let them do it when the people were in the building before they opened the doors, whatever. But some of the boys that would get there would go, what the fuck? He's kind of good enough to be on fucking television. So they had him start doing jobs. The Brown Bombers. There are pictures of him and Orville as the Brown Bombers. And then, obviously being around Bobby, everybody, took a liking to him. And, I'm not saying that Nick immediately wanted to put him in the will and, adopt him alongside George, but they let Tojo start working with him, because Tojo, and a lot of modern fans or people that weren't there and didn't experience it will look at a picture of Tojo Yamamoto and go, what the fuck? But Tojo was not only the guy that, going back to the early 60s, that Nick Goulas would have if Japanese wrestlers came over, the Inoki, and all the way through Onita and Fuchi and et cetera. They put him with Tojo to teach him how to work more of an American style, how to think about the crowds, and also to, it was kind of like the deal. Tojo will take the young guys, but not only the Japanese guys, but Tojo worked with Jerry Jarrett, Tommy Rich. He was the first partner of Jerry Jarrett, first partner of Tommy Rich, but he'd been riding with them before that. He did the same thing with Bobby. He started, even though Bobby was a babyface, he started working with him as far as, verbally telling him things. And then they switched Bobby heel for a run so he could, when Tojo was a manager, so he could actually work, alongside him. Tojo wasn't training guys how to fucking take backdrops. Tojo would train the guys how to think, how to understand the wrestling business, how to play their part. Jerry Jarrett would tell a famous story that he'd ride down the road. He would be driving. Tojo would be in the passenger seat. And he said, let me see your ear. And Tojo, with that accent, and Tojo would grab and he'd take his fingernails and he would dig his fucking thumbnail as hard as he could into fucking Jerry Jarrett's earlobe. And he'd say, look in the mirror of your face. Tojo quit. What the fuck? He said, okay. He said, now, give me your ear. No, give me your ear. And then he would take, and he would work, and he'd take the meat of his finger, and he'd just barely squeeze, and he'd say, you make same face in mirror as I do before, that working. And over a period of time, and plus sometimes Tojo would take some of the young guys in the ring and beat the shit out of them too, to see whether they, had it in them. But he was always the guy that polished Nick's projects. And Bobby loved Tojo for that. But that's why he learned. He was a natural. He just saw it and got it and understood how to do it, performing the moves. But from the time he was a teenager, not only was he a fan, he watched what went on. He saw the way the baby faces did the promos and made the fiery comebacks. He saw the way the heels got heat. He said Kurt and Carl Von Bronner scared the shit out of him. He thought they were going to kick shit out of him when he was 13. But he got instructed early on in how to think about the wrestling business and how to have matches. And he's in there working with the best guys, veterans, who knew how to call matches and put matches together where it kept everybody strong unless they wanted to bury somebody. And then he learned how to bury people on purpose. Not that he would do it, but he learned how to nip up out from under it. But that kind of, that was the education. And that's why so many of the guys that worked with him in the ring just respected him so much, because not only did he do things that in no way were going to injure them, but he did things that made them look better, even if he was going over them. And that wasn't the case, with a lot of guys. And that's when I talk about the education that some of the modern guys miss. And I'm not even being ornery now. That's the kind of education that a lot of the guys miss and you can't get, and it's been misinterpreted or etc. But I'm not going to be ornery today. And as a matter of fact, I want to say this also. A lot of people tweeted, including the folks at AEW, tweeted a nice graphic and a respectful message about Bobby. And I know that some of the AEW personnel in various positions listen to the show, and that's not a snide comment either. Because I'm wondering if anybody with access to Tony Khan can get to him, tell him that I've heard everything that he said about Bobby and how respectful it was and how nice it was. And I thank you, Tony. Tony Khan is not a horrible human being. We may see way far apart on wrestling and a variety of issues, but that was a cool thing to do, Tony. So I hope somebody will deliver that message to him. But anyway, so then Bobby gets into business, as I said, and, that's why he was figured in for Nick all that time, because not only could Nick, he was such a dependable guy and you wanted to use him and what a talent he was, but he also at the same time, he's home. He doesn't want to leave. He's not trying to leave. He's not trying to hold anybody up. Bobby just wanted to be a wrestler. And that, until we got the spot in the Midnight Express, he never realized how valuable he was or how good he was or that he was a top guy. He wouldn't put himself, me, Bobby Eaton, I'm on the same plane as the Road Warriors or this or that. But he started to get an idea of how to carry himself and gave him even more confidence when we got the spot with the Midnight Express.